So I recently read somewhere that if, let's say, you're posting a letter in the UK and then you turn the stamp upside down, you can actually be imprisoned for this because it's considered as an act of treason. And this is actually stated in the Treason Felony Act of 1848. They interpret it as you're trying to dispose of the British monarchy. How absurd. I mean, so this led me into researching about more things that are illegal in the UK that people do not even know. It's like, it's so weird because you do it all the time. You probably don't even know that it's a crime. Guys, the things I discovered. Hey, 12 more of such weird laws or such things that are actually unlawful or illegal that you have no idea about. If you're interested, stay tuned. Stop that. So you see how in the UK, you don't really see people with dry lines hanging things in front of their houses or at the back of their houses. It's not common, but in Africa it's like it's almost in every home. Sometimes in the main compound of the house, because of the way the houses are built, or in front of the house, you see dry lines and then you hang them beautifully. I mean, you see how it's not common in the UK. Actually, it's an offense. Yes, it is illegal to hang your clothes in places where like people will see, like in the public. So there's actually something called the Town Police Clause Act of 1847. They say under this, it is stated that it is actually an offense punishable by £1,000 fine or 14 days in prison to air your clothes or your laundry in the public. They're not saying that your underwears or clothes in general, it doesn't matter if they are clean or dirty. It is actually an offense punishable by law to dry or to hang your clothes in public. And most people don't even realize when you actually read your tenancy agreement, there's actually this most of the time stated in your tenancy agreement as well. And then apparently, as of now, over 1.4 million tenants are subject to contractual clauses, which prevents them from displaying clothing outside. And a further 2.7 million renters are left without an area to dry their clothes. I mean, is this really fair? The thing is, even the UK weather does not make it favorable to hang things anyways, because even in the summer it will rain. It's unpredictable. But the thing is, when the weather permits, why shouldn't people be allowed? So recently there was actually a campaign and the hashtag of this campaign was Share My Air or something like that, where people who were homeowners were willing to share their space to other people living by, like neighbors who had no place or who had signed these tenancy agreements and were now bound to follow all these and could not now hang things on any dry line in their homes. So there were people who were homeowners or who had enough space in their homes who were willing to let these people come and hang or dry their clothes in their homes or whatever. That is why in UK, I don't know if you've gone to some people's homes, you see laundry on the table or in the sofas in the living room. It's so bad. And I don't blame them. Look at the cost of living. Not everybody can, first of all, afford a dryer, which is quite expensive. Not everyone even has enough space for that dryer, even if they buy it. And the thing too is that it's quite unhealthy to dry your clothes. Back in Ghana, we were taught that when you wash your underwear as a woman, you should hang it so that the part that is attached to, you know, your private part is exposed to the sun, so that the sun will kill the germs and everything. So how then is this an offense if I dry my clothes outside? This is weird. If you are doing it, careful. And if you're a renter, go back to read your tenancy agreement. There are usually clauses like that in there preventing you from drying your clothes outside the property. That's why you see people with that thing that you can open and then they dry things outside their bathroom or whatever. But imagine if you're a family of 5. This is so inconvenient. I mean, how? Another thing that is an offense and can actually land you in prison, where you can spend 14 days in prison or £1,000 fine, is if you do that game where they call knock and run or ring and run. You see, in certain parts of the world, it's a popular game where kids, usually it's done by teenagers and minors, they'll go to your house and then they'll ring the bell and then mainly they hear footsteps of you coming or they think you're coming and they'll run away. It's actually an offense to do that here. So if you have teenagers or you have kids who are interested in that, warn them. This actually makes sense, but I don't think it should take somebody to 14 days in prison. Third thing is that you see how sometimes, let's say you have a mat or a carpet or a rag and it's dirty, so you either shake it like this to clear out the dust, or you hit it, you beat it to bring the dust out or whatever particles out. You see how you can easily do that? I mean, it's an offense. Yeah. It is an offense, and that as well, you can be in prison for 14 days or you get a £1,000 fine. But there's an exception. If it's your doormat, is allowed, but even that one, it should be before 8 a.m. Yes. And you can find all these things in the Town Police Clause Act of 1847. Under this same Town Police Clause Act of 1847, it has a lot. Yesterday, I actually read it and I laughed. There's so many of them that I can't even share. Even with animal rearing, there's so many ridiculous that are actually offenses. But anyway, under that same Town Police Clause Act of 1847, if you sing loudly or you and then you use profane language in the song publicly loud to the hearing of other people, it's actually an offense. Careful, those that go to the club and they come back so happy and they are singing loudly, they don't care the foul language in the music or the song, it's an offense. In the same way, if you publicly offer for sale, distribute, or exhibit to public view any profane material, drawing, magazine, picture, whatever, that is also an offense. And that's the same thing. Nothing about exposing profanity to the public, whether it's an article, a magazine, drawing, or it's in a song even. All of those things are classified as offenses. This fifth one, not a lot of people will be able to relate, but those who live in the, Channel Islands and British Isle of whatever, those people, yeah. If, let's say, these people live close to water bodies, like huge water bodies, if the water washes away to shore, that fish or the whale or whatever belongs to the British king, whoever is the head of the monarchy at that time. That is a fact. You can Google it. It's not for you. And you can find this under chapter 13 of the Prerogativa Regis of 1324. A whale or great sturgeons washed up or caught around the British Isle is the property of the king or the queen. However, in practice today, the National History Museum now will deal with all those things, but it is not your property. You don't have to touch it. And then again, they introduced what we call the Currency and Banknotes Act of 1923. And under this act as well, if you are somebody who writes on the British pound, you print it or you deface it, it's actually an offense. And I think this is also popular in a lot of countries, but the fact that this one can actually be jailed for it, it should be taken serious. There are people that actually mark their notes to indicate that it's for them. If you do that, you can be in serious trouble. They introduced this act in 1923 to bring about integrity about the pound. And those who stamp it as well, it's also an offense. So whenever you have pound in your hand, please treat it with care and maintain the integrity of the pound, because you can actually be found wanting. A lot of countries also protect the integrity of their currency. Recently, our popular Bobrisky got into trouble by spraying Nigerian naira at a party. I didn't even know it was a crime before, but apparently it is. So yeah, so it's not only UK, but you see how sometimes when somebody is not driving well, and then you can be so angry because you don't understand why the person is crossing you or is not moving, and then you sound your horn aggressively, ping, 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 like to alert this person that, yeah, you're coming to crash my car, or something, or go, the traffic or the robot is green, go, instead of talking on your phone or chatting with the person in your car. Sometimes other drivers can really annoy you and then you have to sound your horn aggressively. My brother, my sister, that's actually a crime. That is a crime. So with this, you can be fined as low as £50 or as much as £1,000. The UK Highway Code states that the horn should only be used while you are in a vehicle which is moving, and you need to warn other road users of your presence, and never sound your horn aggressively. First of all, you don't have to use the horn whilst you are stationary. That could also lead you to court, and then you can be fined between £50 and £1,000. And they don't care if other drivers were at fault with what they were doing on the road that made you sound the horn aggressively. You cannot do that, regardless of whether it was a driver's fault or it was a pedestrian's fault. That is not enough reason to sound your horn aggressively. And never sound your horn whilst the car is stationary. It should be whilst the car is in motion. And then also, you cannot sound your horn in built-up areas or areas where there's a lot of people, especially between 11:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. In built-up areas with a lot of people, you cannot sound your horn around that time at all, because people are sleeping. You cannot be disturbing them. They don't care who's worrying you on the road at that time. If a deer is almost causing an accident, do not aggressively sound your horn. Hey, okay. This one, some of us might not even understand. They said it is actually illegal to handle salmon in suspicious circumstances. Yes, the fish salmon, that's what I mean. Salmon, yes, the edible fish salmon. It is an offense to handle it in suspicious circumstances. But if you listen to the context, let me explain what they actually say about this. It is an offense under the Salmon Act of 1986. So let me read. It says, it relates to anyone who receives or disposes of any salmon in circumstances where they believe or could reasonably believe that the salmon was illegally fished. So maybe in 1986 or around that era, there used to be a lot of illegal fishing, and probably maybe people were popularly fishing salmon. So that's when they introduced the act, because in this day and age, does this even still make sense? Somebody holding salmon in a suspicious way is an offense. Did you also know that it's actually an offense to jump a queue? Especially in a tube station. It's actually an offense. If you're waiting for the tube, the train, or whatever, you have to be in a queue, and you do not have to jump the queue. With this one, you could actually be fined, or you could actually be sent to court for that. I think I understand why, because I think jumping the queue can easily lead to a disagreement between people. I mean, I've seen it happen so many times in my country. Even people queuing to buy food, like by the roadside, and this one says, I came before you, I was here, I was behind this lady, blah, blah, blah. And it can easily lead to an argument, and that argument can disturb public peace. So I'm sure the British people, they want things orderly. They don't want any such quarrels and disagreements in public. That's why they are saying that if you jump the queue, you could be fined. And that is why there's always somebody to talk to at the tube station, or somebody to contact in case you're confused about something, or there's something to read. Do not jump the queue. It could land you in trouble. Something as simple as jumping the queue. So tell me, if you want to get drunk, I don't get drunk, and I don't drink. But for those of you who drink, tell me, if you want to get drunk, or if you want to have a good time, you know, on a weekend, where would you usually go? Did you say the pub? Hey, please don't do that again. If you go to the pub purposely to get drunk, please don't do that again, because it is actually an offense to get drunk in the pub. Where else do they want you to get drunk? The church? I mean, that's where they sell alcohol. Why then is it an offense to get drunk in the pub? It's an offense. Google it if you don't believe me. Google it. It's an offense. That one, whoever is at the bar is not supposed to sell you any more alcoholic drinks if they realize you're drunk. And then you are also not supposed to be found drunk in the pub. And in a way, it makes sense. I think they probably know that if you're drunk, you're likely going to get into fights and disagreements and quarrels and all of that, and that is not good. And then you're probably going to have to drive back home, where if you're drunk driving, you can hit somebody and kill an innocent soul, or you can, you know, cause a lot of havoc on the street or on the road or whatever. So I think that is wise. But now, if you want to get drunk, go to wherever, buy the alcohol, come back home, get drunk in your house. Because if you go get drunk in the pub, you can actually be arrested for that. Hey, okay. And for those who want to know where this law is, check Metropolitan Act of 1839. Yes, I came prepared. Yes. And under the Licensing Act of 2003 as well, that is where it talks about being illegal to serve alcoholic beverages to people who are already intoxicated. So if you leave your house to go get drunk somewhere, you could actually face a fine. So this one is quite sad, but there's a story where in 2015, there was a man who got fined because he was found lingering after his wife's burial. So you know how when they have funerals over here, sometimes they go to the cemetery, loved ones and family, and then they, you know, bury the person, yeah? After that, you're supposed to actually go home. But there was this man in 2015 who was found still lingering around the cemetery after the funeral when everybody had left. Probably because he was still sad and could not believe the wife was dead. The person was fined. And their reason is that there's a time for the cemetery workers to do their work. So if you are still around at that time, there are not supposed to be other people there. The grave diggers or the cemetery workers are supposed to have the privacy to do their work. This man was fined £160 in 2015 after lingering about for only extra 20 minutes after his own wife's burial. This is sad. I don't think anybody who's watching me will be found wanted. We're not going to any funerals. Now the very last one, it's actually illegal to carry a plank of wood on your shoulder, like around. Yes, let me read it. It is illegal to walk along a pavement while carrying a plank of wood. This was introduced in the medieval times through the Metropolitan Act. This law thankfully provides some exceptions. So it's okay to carry a plank of wood provided that you are loading it onto a vehicle or you are offloading it. It was also introduced to prevent overloaded carts leaving planks of wood all over the pavement and creating hazards for pedestrians to be sure not to fall foul to this law. They did not want people to overload carts with wood, and then as they are driving, the wood will be falling off and causing accidents on the road. But does that mean that you should ban people from carrying wood along the pavement? UK for you. Which of these laws is the weirdest, and which one did you have absolutely no clue about? Let me know. And which one do you think you're likely to be caught doing? Okay, thank you so much for watching. Bye.